TIL that the USSR's lead rocket scientist, Sergei Korolev, planted newspaper articles falsely suggesting approval for a Soviet space program. President Eisenhower responded by approving an American space program. This forced the Communist Party to approve the space program they previously denied. I'll also note that the Soviets refused to identify Sergei Korolev as the man responsible for their space program, denying him a chance at the Nobel Prize when the Nobel Committee inquired. Even the Soviets in the space program who reported to him directly did not know or use his name, just his title. Some people also think effort of keeping up with the Americans killed Korolev due to overwork. He had medical issues in part because he spent 6 years in Soviet prison camps under Stalin, and after his first heart attack he had been warned to take it easy, but he feared that the space program would die without him. He died at age 59 about 2.5 years before the Americans reached the moon, and his identity and accomplishments were first revealed in his obituary. Edit. I found another source with more specific information about the article Korolev planted that Western media cited. Here's the link, http://epized airbase. ru/biblo/in Austriaziki/acta astronautica/2008/sidiki_Sputnik_50. PDF. Here's a key quote. In February and March 1955, Korolev and Tikhonravov worked behind the scenes to orchestrate a detailed public announcement about the existence of the Academy's Interplanetary Commission. The article, in dry and uninspiring prose, appeared on April 16, 1955, in the Moscow newspaper Vechernaya Moskva, Evening Moscow. Noting the creation of the commission, the anonymous author of the piece noted that the new body would coordinate and direct all work concerned with solving the problem of mastering cosmic space. In the article, Keldish's aide Karpenko was quoted as saying that one of the immediate tasks of the commission is to organize work concerned with building an automatic laboratory for scientific research in space, a claim which was most certainly not true. Western wire services immediately picked up the story and reported it prominently in the American press. A New York Times article in July, for example, noted that intense Soviet interest in achieving priority over all other nations in regard to all aspects of interplanetary flight has been evident for some years. The Times went on to recount the various recent articles in the Soviet media on space exploration and then described the Vechernaya Moskva statement. The United States and the Soviet Union now appear to be in a race for the glory of making the first step toward interplanetary flight, the article concluded. There was an American city that used a similar tactic. They had been asking the government for funds to build a bridge over a river but always got denied. The major wrote the Russian consulate and they answered that they would fund it. So the American government had no other choice to build the bridge. He understood that the processes involved in the decision were unconscious and would react automatically. Holy shit. Sputnik was designed and constructed in less than a month. Those fuckers weren't messing around. We should have sent a poet, not a pilot. Sergei Korolev. Ah. So that's what they're referring to when they say you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. That's actually very smart. Almost sounds like something from r/stupid loopholes. This is like when one parent says to ask the other, so you just say they said yes. Reminded me of that scene from Men Who Stares at Goats. Americans were releasing false information about studying psychics that forced USSR to actually study it and that forced US to actually study it. Till the space race was just Korolev manipulating the planet into funding his rocketry hobby. The man not starting it started the space race. Russians sure seem damn good at manipulating the media. Hats off. Hustle of the century. Giga brain move right there. International espionage and state manipulation are hard. But they're not rocket science. That's a man dedicated to space exploration. r/madlads. That was a very big brain move, smiling face with sunglasses. It's important to consider the impact Korolev and von Braun had. The thing is that there were a lot of nerds that specifically wanted to go to the moon. Not just put men into space, or launch space telescopes to see beyond, or even put a space station up. They wanted the moon. The way the program was pushed, it actually set back enthusiasm for space programs significantly. The plan scientists had established had pretty firmly laid the basis that we needed first short-term orbital trips, then orbital space stations, then observation flights, and eventually landing on the moon. We shortcut to the moon landing by decades for PR, and because the scientists behind it encouraged politicians because they wanted to see it happen in their lifetime. It's actually the opposite of the sentiment of the phrase "a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." Instead they took the shade, the carrot on the end of the stick, for themselves and left the space researchers with an uphill battle to convince politicians and the public to continue space investment when the best inspiring goal was already spent. We had decades of people complaining why we were hanging out in overly expensive space stations instead of going back to the moon, or thinking we had failed because we didn't maintain a ship capable of going to the moon, when it was the exact opposite, and it was scientists prioritizing important research goals and trying to use money in a more fiscally responsible manner, and failing whenever politicians used manned space programs as pork barrel projects, but had quite a bit of success otherwise. So in the end, it's a great story of what one can achieve in one's life, but also a cautionary tale to society to invest in steady, consistent steps for sustained growth. Anyway, within the next 10 years we should be hitting the moon again, and we'll actually be armed with information that will help us study and utilize it to a significantly larger extent. Good for Korolev. He had to be a weasel to get the commie bureaucrats moving, but he did it effectively. Got the US in on it too. Without him, we'd probably still be relying on undersea cables and Earth-based weather stations for predicting climate/weather. The world is a much better place because of this man's determination. Of course the bureaucrat Karens still hate him. He was a mover and a shaker in a world they preferred to remain static. So he's the guy who bankrupted the USSR. The source for this claim doesn't seem to say exactly what's in the title. https://news. Fordham. edu/inside Fordham/Sputnik declassifications offer primer fake news/ taken from the Wikipedia article. In 1954, because they knew a lot of Soviet journalists, they flooded the Soviet media with speculative articles on space flight. A bunch of articles just started coming out in early '54, and into '55. The interesting thing is, a lot of really powerful people began to take notice, especially of one article that came out, I believe, in April of 1955. This article got cited a lot in the Washington Post and New York Times, this Soviet, Russian-language article. It eventually makes its way into the CIA, and if you look at some of the rationales behind the first U.S. satellite, it's a complicated story involving freedom of space. But one of the things inserted into the very high-level documents like the 1950s National Security Council documents, is this article, which Korolev and his colleagues had orchestrated. There was nothing going on in the Soviet Union on space at this time, but this article got repeated and circulated a lot, and, as probably all of you know, in the end of July 1955, the Eisenhower administration announces they're going to launch a satellite in a couple of years. It's going to be a scientific satellite. Maybe falsely suggesting approval for a Soviet space program isn't an entirely inaccurate way to describe this, but it's misleading. The articles made it seem like there was interest in space flight in the Soviet Union, not a specific intent to invest in it.